And hello once again, everybody, and welcome to our Hurricanes first round roundtable. No school has a better history and tradition when it comes to the NFL draft than the University of Miami. It's the first round draft pieces, and we've got four great former Hurricanes all drafted in the first round. Santana Moss is with us. John Beason is with us. We also have Duane Starks and Randal Hill. So we're well covered here today. Fellas, y'all look great. How's everybody doing?
Great, man. How you doing?
All right. Randal, I'll start with you. And
That's around.
I was at your draft day. So 1991, you were drafted in the first round, 23rd pick in the first round. Hometown, Miami Dolphins select you. Tell us a little bit about what you remember about draft day.
Well, I remember my mom being a nervous wreck, and my dad being cool and calm like he always is. My dad shows no emotion. He's kind of like Dr. Spock on the Starship Enterprise. And my mom cusses like a sailor. She's kind of like Jackie Gleason and Smokey and the Bandit. And my mom tells me after the first couple of picks, she looks at me, and I'm just sitting there patiently. And my mom says, "This is giving me an ulcer." And she said it with a lot of expletives and a lot of characteristic comments. She said, "This is giving me an ulcer. I can't take this." And she walks out of the room. So I go out and I grab her and said, "Mom, come back, sit down. Everything's gonna be fine." But it was, it's a culmination of a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of pride, because when you play the game, you also represent your family, and I wanted to represent my family that day.
You went early, 10th pick, first round. What was it like for you?
Oh man, it was amazing, man. For me, where I come from. I'm a towner for life. Come from over town, so I just wanted the opportunity to play in the league. And the thing is, I got that opportunity. Whether I was going to be first round, second round, fourth round, I didn't care. I just wanted to play. And then the thing is, like the way I looked at it, I had the opportunity to go up to New York because that's what they were doing at the time, and I decided not to because I felt like everyone who supported me during my road trip, my journey through college and little league and all the other things that I played, all the little stuff that I played, they wouldn't have been able to come with me. So I was like, you know what, man, I want to share this moment with all of them, my family, my friends, and that's what we did. We went over to Drew's house. I was pretty relaxed, calm. And it was a very special moment for not just me, but for my family members and friends, because those are memories that they can't, it's just stuck in their head, and they always reminisce about it and the joy that they had. So I was able to do that for them, give them that joy by being selected a 10th pick overall. And that's just an amazing feeling for me.
John, 2007, you went in the first round, 25th pick to Carolina. What do you remember about draft day?
I remember being calm. I was excited, but I knew that I was going to get drafted. At least at that time, between scouts running their mouth or your agent being dialed in, you kind of had a good idea of the team that was trying to get you. I even had coaches that were saying, "Hey, I was going to war for you," in the draft room, saying, "We got to draft this guy." So I knew I was going to have the ability to go early. At that time, it was still the second round, third round, was all in the same day. But I just felt blessed and humbled that I would be going in the draft.
Santana, you're one of the great stories. You were a walk-on at the University of Miami. You go from walk-on to 16th pick in the draft to the New York Jets.
What a day. Honestly, it's like, just hearing those guys' story, and I got a chance to play with, Duane. It was a joyous day, man. Like, honestly, I remember like it was yesterday because, I was at my mom's house. I had my immediate family. I didn't want no one else around.
Exactly.
Leading up to everything that took place, I just wanted it to be like it was a normal day. That's how I live. I didn't want no parties. I didn't want to even act like it was going to be a big thing because I wanted to make sure I made it first, And even after I got, selected, I still wanted to keep everything normal because I knew my journey. I knew how hard it was to get to where I had got to. And it was just 4 years removed from not even knowing I was going to get into school, you know, and I had went from being a guy that just got in there on track and just saying, now look at me going to the NFL. I saw this when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, when I told myself, watching the Dolphins right in front of my house, go to their games, I want to do that one day. And now here I have this opportunity to be them. And I said it when I was a kid, and just to see that dream come true, it was a joyous day. Man, I tell folks all the time, and I don't mean to cut you off, but it's great, man. And just thinking back on why we who we are. You know, I always talk about why folks hate the guys that came from the U. It was a brotherhood like no other. You know what I mean? Just like we on this Zoom today, we don't have to see each other at all. And when we get together, you know, you can see that bond. You know, these starts from day one, I came in, I was a nobody. You know, I was a guy that's trying to be next to the guy. That's how I looked at things. I had a game plan every day to go to practice to say, I want the coaches to say my name in the meetings about something I did well. But instantly, you know, one of the things I've learned about this game is that, you know when you did something right or wrong when the guys that you go out there and sweat with can give you that, you know, that little pat on the back or that, you know, slap on, you know, the backside saying, good job. One of the things D Starks did was basically told me he following me around every day in practice. And I'm like, this is the Big East, all Big East cornerback that's coming back, that's about to be our first round pick. Why me? Why I'm so special? But then I took it as a challenge to say, you know what, this guy's getting me better. And before you know it, once he left, I was that guy when it came to on the offensive side, because these Starks had groomed me well and put that pressure on me.
That's a valid point. Valid point, because coming into the University of Miami, I was an All-American defensive back, and one day Jimmy Johnson came up to me and said, "Hey, listen, go play wide receiver." Now you look at the other side of the ball, you got the playmaker, you got Brian Blaze, you got Brett Perriman. And, it's interesting because, those guys took me underneath their wing, because I think here at the University of Miami, we always want to see guys go in the first round, because it's like we all go in the first round.
Yeah.
Once we see a University of Miami name, or we see that logo on that board saying going in the first round, then, okay, you know what? We can all cherish that. These guys who I'm on the Zoom with right now, they went in the first round. And they got more money than me since I was older, but
it's just the time, man. It's the time. That's it. Nowadays they cutting these checks for $100 million. I'm like, man, I'm missing too. I want to go back.
It, man. I cherish these guys, man, because I can say that I knew these guys, and like Santana said, we get on Zoom, we haven't seen or talked to each other. We kind of live close to each other, but it's a family, and we don't miss a beat.
And you know what's funny, man? I look at this, and I'm looking at who's on here, right? Now, Randall, I'm going to tell you a story about you and Michael Irvin.
Uh-oh.
Now, one thing that was so special about the University of Miami, in the offseason, those guys go on Green Tree and work out, right? Mm-hmm. And they allow other people to come out there. And I was a young kid in junior college. Before I got to the University of Miami, I went out there, Randal Hill running routes, Michael Irvin running routes. So when I get out there, Randall was pretty much done. So he was like, I'm done, folks. And he was walking off. Michael Irvin stayed there for another 10, 15 minutes, and I got to cover him for like 2 or 3 routes. Mm-hmm. He couldn't get open until he pushed off. You know what I'm saying?
Good thing Mike ain't on this Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to be the one. You're going to have to take that phone call. When Mike called, you got to take that phone call. You know it's coming.
So that gave me the confidence, man, that I needed to know that I was stepping into the right opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And stepping into the right genre of guys. And that's one thing that was special. I take anything away from the University of Miami. It's the history. It's the guys like Randall, who's mentored the younger guys. Guys like Ray, of course, I was there with him. And then I look back on what I've done for certain guys like Ed Reed, all the young guys, Santana, and even John, because I didn't play with John, but I can remember in the off season, I went back to school. I don't know if you remember that, John.
Yep, right.
So me and John sat down a couple of days, man, in between classes and just chopping it up. Me letting him know what the NFL was all about. You know what I'm saying? Letting him know what to expect. Man, that's just, you know what I'm saying? You can't get that, man.
How do you guys think because you play at the University of Miami, from an NFL executive standpoint, how do you think being a Hurricane helped your evaluation? Because so many Hurricanes have been drafted, one with a certain reputation. So the NFL comes knocking on the door. They want some of that Miami magic. How do you think being a Hurricane helped you become first rounders?
Well, yeah, I think that they look at the University of Miami and they say there's a legacy there.
I think back all the time about every year when I got into the league. Every year, you know, I care less about what the team was bringing in or where they was bringing guys in from, but you always get a coach or someone higher up in that front office that will come down and talk to me and be like, who you like from your school? And it's crazy. I was with the Jets for 4 years. Yeah. Every year I got a guy from, every year I got a guy from the Hurricanes. Some years 2 years. I was heading out the door in 2004, and I remember telling our running back coach, you need to get Frank Gore. And I ended up not knowing that was my last year there. I go to, D.C., I go to Washington, go to the Redskins. That running back coach go to San Fran and picked up Frank Gore. And I get to Washington, Sean Taylor's there, Portis is already there. Every day we talk to Greg Williams. He's the defensive guy. He tell me to my face, said, Santana, if it's up to me, I would draft nothing but Hurricanes. He said, you guys, regardless of what round it is, y'all breed the guys that I like, the guys that have an attitude, that have a passion for what we do. And, when I listen to him talk, you're right. We all carry that same swagger, that persona, that, whatever's going on there, the coaches that's coaching us at that particular time, breeding us to go out there and dominate in the next level. We don't just go in and play with the other guys. We go and dominate the next level. So when I was talking to Greg Williams that day, he made me always, to this day, I think about that conversation because he said, hey, man, I don't care what round those guys in. You get a guy from the University of Miami, he's going to come here and lay it on the line.
It was a privilege when you talk about coming out of the University of Miami, what the players before you had already done. These guys' livelihoods are on the line. Our head of scouting in Carolina at the time, Don Gregory, we used to always mess with each other, passing in the hallway, eating at the calf. I used to say, hey, man, who we getting? Who we getting from the youth? He goes, man, I don't know about it this year, He goes, I know how you feel about it. I said, look, the University of Miami is like the supermarket. It's like going to the grocery store. I don't care what cuisine you want. They got it. So, you got to start there. And that was the reason why you guys know this. Every pro day, the first pro day was at the University of Miami for years. Yep. You couldn't scout or know who was good until you had stopped at the University of Miami prior to. So being a younger player, that's attached to, the lineage, the legacy of the players before in terms of accomplishing things, playing in meaningful games. I know that I was a direct, beneficiary of the fact that so many guys that came before me and never, ever would they bust in the NFL.
Before I let you go, did you all know, did you have a conviction that you were going to be taken in the first round?
Absolutely. It was just based on what I was told. I had talked to enough people to know that it was going to be this team, that team, and this team. And the funny part is I ended up going to 25 when the Jets traded with Carolina from 14 to 25 to get Revis. I got there and everyone, had this big smile on their face. They're laughing and joking. I said, man, what's going on? I just got it from my interview. And sure enough, they were like, hey, we're about to draft you at 14. And then the Jets called. So thanks, Tanner, man. The Jets called and we traded back. So I was like, you just cost me a few $1 million. But, you kind of knew the team that was probably going to draft you when you get drafted high. One of the few teams that have a need. You know where you fall in terms of ranking at that position. And that's the beauty of it is that, you're getting drafted. The opportunity to go in the first round is a blessing, but it's just the start of the story.
Hey, I think about that day at Drew's house on draft day. I actually got a phone call from the 11th pick, which was the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm on the phone with the GM. He's like, hey, Duane, what's going on? I say, what's up? So he's like, you ready to be an Eagle? And Drew was like, in the background, like, I got the Ravens on the phone right now. The Ravens on the phone right now. So he put Ozzie Newsome with the Ravens, which was the 10th pick, ahead of Philly. And they was like, yo, we pulling the trigger. You ready to be a Raven? I was like, you better believe it. So, you know, I had the opportunity to go out and play with Ray. And I think we had Kip Vickers at the time, man. We had about 5 Canes on that team, 5 or 6 Canes on that team when we won the Super Bowl 3 years later.
Oh, that's your Super Bowl.
Duane,
Yeah.
Duane, let me ask you a question. Because for me, it was different. I didn't get no phone calls. It was getting late. It was the longest first round in history to that point. In about 4 hours, about 40 minutes. And, you know, when I got the phone call, I was like, okay, cool. You know, it's Carolina Panthers. They put me on the phone. Jackie Miles called me, the equipment manager, put me on the phone with John Fox. And he said, hey, you know, you want to be a Panther? I said, absolutely. And then I hung up the phone and I was fine. But when Goodell got to that podium and he said my name, that's when I lost it, man. I mean, snot bubbles, tears. You know, me and my brother, my mom, we was hugged up, man. It probably felt like at least several minutes, man. Just
Oh, man.
you know, sobbing, man, just elated at the fact that you got drafted. But for me, it was when Goodell said it versus the phone call. The phone call was like, you know, it could have been anybody. So I just want to know, was it when you got to the podium, when he got to the podium, you heard your name, or the phone call?
You know what? I think when I got off the phone and then I looked up at my parents, and just seeing the joy on their face, that killed me right there.
That was it.
You know what I'm saying? That did it. You know, the phone call, because I already know it's time for me to go to work. I'm about to get drafted. I don't care if first round, second, third. I'm going. I'm healthy. I made it out of the season healthy. I'm good.
You know,
but
interesting.
When I got off that phone. I got a picture of it. That's why I was looking back, but it's not back here. Man, I was crying. My parents crying. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
We only got like a minute or two left. We only have about a minute or two left. Santana, when you heard your name, was it joy, relief, or like John, were there a lot of tears?
It was a mixture of both. I didn't shed the tears, but I had a many. But to be honest with you, man, if you could just be in my shoes, you know, honestly, just think back how I got
through what you went through. Exactly.
You know, the stuff that I went through. You know, I was just telling folks the other day a story about my freshman year, really not being on scholarship and some of the things I couldn't partake in with Duane them. People don't even know it. But I was one of those guys. I was so focused on just making a name for myself. And when I finally got those opportunities to be on scholarship, which was like the 4th game of the season, look, they had gave me a scholarship the 4th game of the season, so I had to play, but I still couldn't eat with those guys.
I was about to say that.
I still couldn't do some of the things that the football guys was doing. So I look back on that at that time, and I look back on it now, and I say, this was the story of my life. I feel like my role was always that way. It was nothing ever given to me. I always had to go out there and work for it. But at the end, you know, that was the end result to me. Like, you were being awarded. Like, I knew my junior year that I had a chance to leave early and go first round. I said no because I promised my folks that I wanted to graduate. I wanted to
Amen.
And you know, not to just say I was going to bet on myself. I kind of prayed, doing a lot of prayer. I pray to this day. But I said, hey, you know, if it's meant for me to next year, it'd be, you know, the same situation. And I remember going to that season, my first game, and getting hurt. Had a high ankle sprain that lasted about 5 games. And just to get through all that, and then to still be at the end of the line and be the first guy that they said that might be taken, and it ended up being 2 other guys before me. My class was deep. So Dan Morgan and D-Lou got picked before me, and then Reggie got picked after me. But just to be a part of that, man, I'm like, man, you know what I mean? I'm so blessed.
You guys you've been great here today. Great representatives of the University of Miami. Thank you so much for joining us on our first roundtable. Spectacular stories, and thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, man.
Go Canes.
All right.
Go you.